What's going on, WWE fans? You're watching The Ring Report, where the wrestling never stops. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's break it down. What happens when one of WWE's most calculating minds directly calls out the most unpredictable star from a rival promotion? That question was answered in a segment that has fans across the wrestling world talking. Paul Heyman, the master manipulator, delivered a warning that crossed company lines, targeting Jon Moxley of AEW in a message that felt more like a declaration of war than a promo. This isn't just about WWE or AEW, it's about control, reputation, and proving who truly dominates the wrestling landscape. For months, tensions have simmered between the two promotions. But Heyman's warning escalated matters to a new level. The stakes are high, the implications far-reaching, and the audience is left to wonder how Moxley will respond when the spotlight shifts to Survivor Series. The context: WWE versus AEW wrestling has always thrived on rivalries, not just inside the ring, but across promotions. AEW's rising influence and the continued presence of top stars challenging the status quo in WWE has blurred traditional boundaries. Jon Moxley's involvement in WWE's Survivor Series team, aligning with Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso, was shocking to fans and competitors alike. It represented a crossover rarely seen in professional wrestling, a blending of narrative universes that tests loyalty, ambition, and risk. WWE's management couldn't ignore it, and Heyman's response was both strategic and personal. He framed the situation not as a mere competitive issue, but as a direct challenge to his authority and vision. Who is Paul Heyman? To understand the weight of this warning, you need to understand Paul Heyman himself. Heyman isn't just a wrestler or manager. He's a strategist, a manipulator who has spent decades shaping narratives, controlling outcomes, and creating stars. His influence extends beyond the ring. He dictates match pacing, backstage politics, and even fan perception. When he speaks, the industry listens. Heyman's ability to intimidate isn't based on brute force alone. It's psychological. Every word, glance, and pause is calculated to create tension, uncertainty, and fear. Targeting someone like Jon Moxley, who thrives on chaos and unpredictability, isn't reckless. It's strategic, designed to assert dominance and test whether the AEW star can be rattled. The segment unfolds. During a special segment on Monday Night Raw, Heyman was surrounded by his faction, exuding confidence and control. The lighting, camera angles, and pacing emphasized his authority. He locked eyes with the camera, as if looking directly at Moxley across the screen, and spoke with calculated precision. "Jon Moxley, I know you're watching from whatever bingo hall AEW is running tonight," he began, his tone dripping with condescension. "Let me make this perfectly clear. You step foot in my ring, you interfere in my business, and I will make sure you never work in this industry again. This isn't a threat. It's a promise. Stay in your lane." Every syllable was deliberate, designed to provoke a response while simultaneously demonstrating Heyman's confidence in controlling the narrative. The significance of the warning: Heyman's warning is more than a cross-promotional message. It represents a strategic escalation in the brewing conflict between WWE and AEW. Naming Moxley explicitly and referencing AEW in a WWE segment is unprecedented, signaling that WWE is willing to publicly acknowledge outside interference and challenge it aggressively. This moment also frames Survivor Series as more than a typical event. It positions it as a battleground for promotion-wide dominance. Heyman's historical influence and current authority amplify the weight of his message. He isn't just speaking to Moxley. He's sending a signal to every competitor, backstage personnel, and fan that interference in his plans comes with consequences. The philosophy behind Heyman's threat. Heyman operates on the principle that control is power, and power must be defended relentlessly. To him, wrestling isn't just about matches or championships. It's about narrative control and influence. Moxley's presence in WWE, even temporarily, disrupts that structure. Heyman's threat serves multiple purposes. It tests Moxley's boundaries, asserts WWE's dominance, and reinforces Heyman's persona as the ultimate strategist. By making the warning public, Heyman ensures that everyone in the industry is aware of the consequences of stepping out of line. It's psychological warfare on a grand scale, blending intimidation with calculated messaging to maintain his grip on power. The Moxley factor. Jon Moxley is famously unpredictable. He thrives in chaotic situations, often turning disadvantageous circumstances into opportunities. That unpredictability is precisely why Heyman singled him out. Moxley's willingness to cross promotional lines, his reputation for defiance, and his ability to thrive under pressure make him a unique challenge. Heyman's goal is not merely to threaten, it is to provoke, to test the limits of Moxley's composure and make him reconsider stepping into WWE's carefully constructed ecosystem. For fans, this creates a tense anticipation. Will Moxley retaliate? Will he escalate the conflict? Or will Heyman's warning successfully intimidate him into compliance? Survivor Series, the emerging battlefield. With this warning, Survivor Series gains unprecedented stakes. What would normally be a high-profile WWE event now carries the tension of interpromotional rivalry. Moxley's involvement is symbolic of wrestling's larger landscape, a clash between rebellion and control, chaos and strategy. Heyman's message positions him as the gatekeeper, defending WWE's structure while challenging anyone who threatens it. The anticipation of how Moxley will respond, combined with Heyman's psychological dominance, makes every promo, backstage segment, and match leading to the event feel consequential. Survivor Series isn't just about championships. It's about legacy, authority, and who ultimately shapes the wrestling narrative. Fan reactions and industry implications. The wrestling world immediately reacted to Heyman's warning. Fans are debating the legitimacy of his threat, Moxley's potential response, and how this will shape both WWE and AEW storylines. Industry analysts note that such direct inter-promotional messaging is rare and signals a willingness to blur traditional boundaries for maximum impact. Heyman's actions reinforce his persona while giving Moxley a unique challenge, one that tests not only physical skill, but strategic awareness. The segment has sparked speculation about matches, alliances, and long-term narrative consequences. Fans are invested because the stakes feel genuine, the confrontation feels personal, and the outcome is uncertain. Conclusion. Paul Heyman's warning to Jon Moxley is a masterclass in professional wrestling strategy. By combining psychological manipulation, public messaging, and the implicit threat of consequences, he has elevated what could have been a routine storyline into a high-stakes, cross-promotional narrative. Survivor Series now serves as a battleground not only for championship contention, but for influence and dominance across the wrestling world. Moxley's response will shape the next chapter of this unfolding story. But one thing is certain. Heyman has ensured that everyone watching knows the cost of crossing him. In a world where control, reputation, and power define careers,
Heyman has once again demonstrated why he is one of the most dangerous minds in professional wrestling.